From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Chris Terrell Podcast, and I am your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? What failure did you go through? But more importantly, though, what lesson did you go mine from that failure? Come on now, that's your reward for your troubles, by the way. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down again, before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my lifestyle, habit, routines, to my environment, to my community, and to my system of beliefs. It's because all of those create me, by the way, and they all create you too. And I have been keeping that weight off. That is the most important part, because you see, it is not just enough to lose the weight. You've got to lose it and keep it off forever. Because yo-yo dieting sucks. And I was getting sick and tired of taking round trip tickets to Thinville, and I wanted to move there and make a permanent home base and move on from all this struggle. Will I lose the weight? Will I not lose the weight? Am I going to be a big person forever? Or am I going to figure out how to lose it? Move into that thin body, fall in love with it, fall in love with the lifestyle on the other side. And am I going to stay there? And I did. But it was hard, and it took time. And I'm here each week, hoping that good folks like you hopefully get the same results in your life, where you lose that weight forever. Keep it off. Are you out there? Are you doing this slowly? And I mean slowly, right? Far slower than you thought it should go. We have a phrase in the guild that we could say, embrace the turtle. It takes as long as it takes. Because that's true. It does. You know, when you're setting your weight loss goals, don't be out there setting timelines and deadlines because there's too much outside your control. You can only set goals that you have the power to make sure they come into form. And you should know that by now, hopefully. If not, that probably means you're new on your journey. So let me tell you a couple things. First thing you need to know, that scale is not going to go down every week. In case you didn't learn that yet, those of you my weight loss veterans, you've been out there doing the fight for a year or two, you already have learned this lesson. That scale ain't going down every week. You could do everything, quote unquote, I'm using quotey fingers here, right, and that scale still won't go down. And I know how frustrating that can be, right? Like you did all that hard work and you stand on that scale and it didn't do nothing. It just stayed exactly the same as it did last week. And you're like, well, I put in a lot more of the work than that. You've got to stop letting the scale somehow represent the amount of effort that you put in, because that's silliness. All right. It doesn't work that way, right? Now, I'm a little late getting this podcast out this week. I wasn't going to. I got very sick last week. Sicker than I've been in a long time. So sick, I canceled all my meetings. I canceled all my client sessions for 3 days. And I don't know if I've ever done that since I started working for myself, actually. No, I've done it for a day. I don't know that I've ever had to cancel everything for 3 days straight. So I went down hard. And I made a commitment to myself a couple years ago that I was going to get a podcast episode out every week, unless I was on death's doorstep. And I damn felt like I was on death's doorstep last week. And so a podcast didn't come out. But here it is Sunday, and I woke up feeling pretty good. And I thought, I'm going to come in here and record a podcast. I'm going to do my best. A couple days late, still better than nothing at all. And I think that's in keeping with my principles of how I do things with weight loss, how I do things with my life, how I do things with my business. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And I figure getting this podcast out a couple of days late is better than not getting it out at all to you all, because I know many of you are out there, you're fighting your fight each week, you're working. And I promise I'm not going to give up on you. And I'm going to be here to help encourage you and to support you and to coach you all the way through to the end. I figured out how to get across that ravine, that big canyon of getting the weight off and keeping it off. And I remember being so glad I got there. I just had to turn around and help you all out to get here too. And, success leaves clues. But I was like, forget, I follow that trail of breadcrumbs. I decided I'm going to go leave whole damn loaves of bread for you along the way. So make it real easy to know the path. And this week's episode, I've decided I'm going to just throw you some truth. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to give you 10 things that weight loss winners do. I have been working with people now for years. I have been keeping the weight off myself. My opinions and my feelings and the things that I also just know from having validated and verified about weight loss, I've gotten stronger. And so there's 10 things that I want to go over here today that if you're not doing these, honestly, I would question your seriousness. I would sit here and be like, I don't think you're actually very serious about losing weight. If you were sitting down with me one-on-one and we were going through and I said, all right, are you doing these things? And you said no, I would want to know why. If you didn't have a very good reason why, and you weren't also working towards it, because I understand many of these are aspirational, you have to work your way up to them. But if you weren't working your way up to them and you're like, oh, I'm good here, and you're like halfway there, honestly, I don't think you want this. You see, there's a lot of people out there, and I was one of them, where I used to say I wanted to lose weight, but the truth is I wanted to want to lose weight. I wasn't actually ready to make some actual changes. You know, in my intro to the podcast episode each week, I say I made some actual changes to my lifestyle habits, routines. And the reason why I say actual changes is because for far too often, I would try to lose weight by putzing around on the edges of my life, trying to change little things here and there, not really meddling with the formula of life. I wanted to leave everything sort of status quo as much as I could, and I would just change as few things as possible. But let's be real. If you need to do triple-digit weight loss, your life needs a massive shakeup. And if you're not willing to shake up your life, honestly, I'm not your guy. I don't think you're serious. I don't think you want this. And I'm starting to realize I have been trying to help many people that don't want to do any of the work. And you just want to sit around and talk about doing work. And honestly, it's time for me to move past that. I've left enough information behind me in the podcast. I've left enough information on YouTube. I've left enough information on my TikTok that for those of you that are just going to sit around and putz around on the fringes, I've left enough for you. You can go consume all that stuff. And when you're good and ready to level up and take your weight loss seriously and take your physical life seriously, I'm here ready for you. I'm ready. But if you're just wanting to putz, well, you know, this list today is going to help you see if you're a putzer or if you're a professional. Are you an amateur at taking charge of your life, or are you a professional at taking charge of your life? And so before I get into the list, I want to first invite you to come join my free Facebook group. We're about 6,000 members strong at the time of recording this podcast, and you can find a link to that by going to christerrell.com, or you can find a link to it in the show notes of this podcast. And while I'm talking about the show notes of this podcast, those of you, my Spotify listeners, if you pull out your phone right now and you look down there on the screen, you're going to see an option where you can leave a comment of sorts, of feedback directly on the podcast, and I can actually publish those. You might actually see some comments people have already left. And I read every single one of them. There currently is not a means for me to respond to you directly there via text. I might actually start responding to you all here on the podcast. I might start taking it. Now that I think about that, I might make a little segment. I'm not prepared, so I can't do that today. But I read those, each and every single one of them, and they are very helpful for me to know what is useful for you in the podcast. So please feel free to leave a note there. Those of you, my Spotify listeners, which the last check of my analytics, which is actually the majority of you, are Spotify listeners at this point. But the second most of you is, of course, Apple Podcast. So if you're on Apple Podcast, I would love to invite you to leave a written review of the podcast, and I would like to get a 5-star review if I could. However, I would like to earn that review first. So before you give me a review, if you're new to the podcast, please give me several listens. And if you feel that I've earned it, please feel free to give me a review on the podcast itself. It would mean very much to me to be able to do that. So with that out of the way, let me tell you about the 10 things that weight loss winners do. And again, I want you to ask yourself as you go through each one of these, am I doing these? Now, these are in no particular order. Right? I have seen people implement all 10 of these things in different orders and achieve success. I didn't do them in the order that I'm listing here either. So it's just the order I wrote them down in. So don't get all caught up in the order in which I'm doing these. But let's start with the first one, which is weight loss winners. They focus and strive on getting 10,000 plus steps a day. The reality is those that I see that are regularly crushing it, like every week or two, that scale is dropping consistently. They're 10,000 plus step day people. They just very, very rarely do I see a sub 10,000 plus step person regularly losing weight each and every single week. I just don't see that many of them. So if you are not getting 10,000 plus steps a day, the odds of you having consistent weight loss over a long period of time is very low. You might be getting results. I have seen many people get results when they're getting up to 4,000 and 5,000 steps a day. But understand, you were probably coming from like 1,000 or 2,000 steps a day. So you've like doubled your output. But that change, which will trigger weight loss, is going to run its course in a matter of months. In a matter of months, all of a sudden, that will no longer be enough. So when I say 10,000 steps a day, you don't need to get there overnight if you're at the beginning of your journey or if you're working your way up on your step count, because the body has to become used to getting that many steps. But also there's the other part, which is you'll begin to notice if you want to take 10,000 plus steps a day, it takes time. Like, unless you're a runner, and most of you, if you're especially at the beginning of your journey, I do not encourage you to run. You're going to cause more harm than good. You're going to find that getting 10,000 plus steps a day takes time. So as an example, this isn't something everybody does, but it's a common thing that I see among weight loss winners is they have a walking treadmill at their office, or they have a treadmill at home, or they go on regular walks every single day. They break away from their day and they go on 5, 10, 20-minute walks. I can tell you, for me to get my 10,000 step a day target, I take multiple breaks from my desk and go on a 10-minute walk outside. And when I can't do that, I'll pace in my office. This last winter was challenging for me to do that. The weather kind of really kept me indoors a lot more than I would have liked it to have done. And actually, sometimes even the rain can keep me in a lot more. So I've been thinking about adding a walking treadmill to my office so that I can continue to get my high step count, because this is also something I've noticed with those that maintain their weight. Those that maintain their weight maintain a high step count on the average. So if you think that you're going to temporarily ramp up your life to 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 steps a day, and then go back to 2,000, 3,000 steps a day and maintain your weight loss, you're kidding yourself. You're going to gain your weight back if you do that. So you're going to have to get your step count up and keep it up. Do you have to stay at 10,000 steps a day? No, you don't have to do that. I can tell you most of the time, if you just land within 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day as a rolling 7-day average, you'll probably be fine from a maintenance standpoint. But for weight loss, you got to burn them calories off. So you've got to get as many steps as you can. Get steps. Weight loss winners know you got to get movement into your life, and steps is the easiest way to quantify that. Now, some of you, I know you're not physically capable of taking those kinds of steps. You might have a disability, or you might be might have a lot of weight on you. And look, if you got a lot of weight on you, like if I were to strap 300 pounds to my body, which some of you, you're 500 pounds. So I would have to strap damn near 300 pounds to meet your weight. I don't think you'd need to take 10,000 steps a day, because if I strap 300 pounds to my body and I go for a walk, 10 minutes, I'm going to be toast. And I'm in the best shape of my life. So I don't want you to feel like you have to get the 10,000 steps immediately. But weight loss winners are working their way up to 10,000 steps as fast as they can, understanding that sometimes as fast as you can is still going to take a year. But you've got to get there as quick as you can. And many of you can do it far sooner than you think. Here in my guild, we do challenges regularly where people will only have ever taken 3, 4, 5,000 steps in a day, and then they'll go wow themselves when we'll do a personal best challenge day, and people go get 13, 14, 15,000 steps, and they're like, I had no idea my body was capable of that. And it just flips a switch. So that one's huge. So if you're not striving, I don't think you're trying to be a weight loss winner. You're trying to just be a mediocre or amateur. Number 2 is awareness to calories. Weight loss winners, for the most part, I find they're aware of the calories that they eat. Do they track them? That's a mixed bag, right? Like, I didn't personally track them. I know lots of people that don't track them and they still have great success. But I do find they're at least aware. They're aware they could estimate the amount of calories that they're about to eat. They're aware of the portions that they do. It's not a free-for-all on volume. You see, those that are weight loss winners, they're not usually cutting out whole food groups. Weight loss winners, let me pause. A weight loss winner is somebody that's losing weight and keeping it off. A person that just loses weight, like maybe you do some crash diet and you lose it, but then you gain it back over 3 years, you're not a weight loss winner. You're a hack. And I say that because I was a hack for 20 years. I was a weight loss hack. But if you want to be a winner, if you want to be a champion, you're going to need to be aware of the calories you're eating. You're going to need to be aware of the amount of food that you're taking in. And you're going to have to stop vilifying foods and stop looking at them as good foods and bad foods. You're just going to have to drop that rhetoric in your head altogether. You can hang on to it if you want. It's not like anybody's going to come beat down your door and say, you need to stop thinking that way. Like, nobody's going to do that. You can think however you want. It's your brain. It's your life. You can do whatever you please. But I'm telling you, from experience with myself and all my experience now with years of working with other people, if you vilify foods, saying there's good foods and bad foods, I can't have this food, look, you're going to gain your weight back. Now, before I get into it, every time I say that, there's always somebody that's like, yeah, but Chris, I got a health thing that says I can't eat certain foods. I'm not even going to respond to you. You know damn well that I'm not talking about that. And that's really starting to frustrate me when people do that, because it keeps happening. It's been years of that. And that is, again, where I'm just like, you're just a person looking for an excuse. You're looking for something. And just those of you just wait to number 10, because number 10 is a big one I've noticed among weight loss winners. And I've been waiting to say it for years because I wanted to be damn sure I was right about it before I said it. But you've got to be aware of the foods that you're eating in the caloric amounts. You need to be aware of the nutritional value. Weight loss winners know what is in the foods they're eating. They know if there's fiber in it. They know if there's protein in it. They know what the fat content is. They know some of them are paying attention to things like sodium and potassium and vitamins and minerals. And all right, maybe you can look at that stuff, but you'll find the weight loss winners generally are looking at added sugars, they're looking at fiber, they're looking at protein and the calories, sometimes fats. You'll find that mostly you don't look at carbs that much because if you're looking at all that other stuff, the carbs sort of sort themselves out, right? And you have that awareness. And a weight loss winner isn't looking to shield themselves from that. A hack, an amateur is looking to keep themselves blinded to reality. They want to go to a party and not know what they're eating. Oh, I just want it. How many calories in it? I don't want to know because if I know, I won't want to eat it. So I'm just not going to look. See, that's what a hack and an amateur does. If you're a professional, if you're a weight loss winner, if you have decided that you have the heart of a champion and you're going to go out and get the body of your dreams, then you're not going to want to shield yourself from reality. And you're going to want to know what is in the foods that you're eating. And that's what weight loss winners do. Now, the third thing that weight loss winners do is they change the foods that they eat. The reality is you're going to need to change up some of the things. There's some things you're not eating that you need to start eating because it is going to help your body. It's going to keep you fuller longer, as an example. You might need to start eating foods that have more fiber in it. Some of y'all are probably getting very little to no fiber in your life, and it makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference. Some of y'all are getting very little protein in your life. You think you're doing great getting 80 grams of protein a day in your life. You're not. You're a hack and an amateur if you're trying to lose weight. Professionals, weight loss winners, they're going for the high protein, the high fiber foods because they know when they do that, it pushes out the room for all of the other stuff and it keeps them full. And they change the foods they eat. And weight loss winners also know you got to stop eating some foods. Hacks and amateurs go out and just eat ice cream all the time. Oh, I like it so much. Well, get over yourself. I liked it too. I was a bowl of ice cream a day, Bluebell home-style vanilla, 1 or 2 bowls a day with an obscene amount of Hershey's chocolate syrup in it. And I did that all the time. It was like cocaine to me. I mean, I did it. When I moved to Kansas City, they didn't have Bluebell ice cream. I used to drive south to Arkansas, load up a cooler full of multiple tubs of Bluebell home-style vanilla ice cream with dry ice in it, and I would drive it back home so that I could have it because I was like a crack addict, and I had to have my white vanilla crack there in the form of my ice cream. So you're going to have to drop some foods, not like you can't have them. You're just going to start regulating them. You're going to start going, I'm going to have them under conditions. I'm not just going to have them every time it strikes my fancy because you'll begin to realize that is the mentality of your old self. The self that didn't care about your body. They didn't care about what you ate. And you already know if you don't care about your body and you don't care about what you eat, you gain weight, just like I did. Weight loss winners know you have to care. Amateurs and hacks don't want to care. And so let's move on to number 4. Exercise. Now, it's not that you have to exercise all the time. I've met many a weight loss winner and they all exercise at varying degrees. But when you want to know one of the things I notice, they all exercise to some extent. They do some form of exercise. And really, like, there's not one end all be all exercise. Right? There is a case to be made for things like strength training and yoga. I was reading a study about that these two really have a lot of great lasting benefits, but there's so many other things. Hiking can be wonderful. Going out and going dancing can be wonderful. Doing running is a great one. There's so many, and doing, like a sport of some kind, maybe go play soccer, ultimate frisbee, whatever you want to do, disc golf. Like, these are all great forms of movement to keep your body engaged and using it. There's just so many health benefits to exercise that you really can't ignore it. You can't afford not to. You choosing not to exercise is you like choosing not to invest in your future into your 401k. And some of you are like, well, Chris, I don't have the money to invest in that. Well, you need to get your income up. That is a solvable problem. If you don't make enough money, you can earn more money. If you can't exercise, you can make it where you can exercise. Just rearrange your life. The only person stopping you from exercising is you. There's nothing stopping you. It doesn't matter what your life is. It doesn't matter how busy you are. You could be working 3 jobs and still exercise. And I know some of you are out there, you're killing it. You're busting it on all ends trying to keep your life together. And you're like, I don't got time to exercise. And I know you don't want to hear this, but you're going to have to figure it out. I don't know what to tell you. If you want to lose weight and keep it off, and you want to be a weight loss winner, and you want to be a champion, and you're going to have to exercise. You're going to have to figure out how to do it. And that might mean not doing some things in your life anymore. You might have to cut some things out. You might have to stop some socializing to take care of your body. That sucks. But you know what? I'd much rather you be alive longer in life than go out another night with your buddies. But that's just me. Now, number 5. This is a big one. A real big one. And it's a broad one, but it is working on mindset. Those that are weight loss winners learned that it is not enough to just change the foods. You've got to change the thoughts that you have. You have to change the way you process life. You have to change the way you communicate with yourself. You have to change the way you look at food. You have to change the way you look at so many parts of things. And that means personal growth, personal development, self-investment, where you invest time and your money into yourself, into your mind, into your heart. And sometimes that means buying a book, taking a course, joining a club, or joining a support group, or maybe seeing a therapist, whatever it might be. But you've got to level up your mind, because your mind is the instrument that you're going to use to create all of the results in your life. And I know that you might think, well, Chris, I need to just know what to eat. No, you don't. I know you might be thinking, Chris, I just need to know what the right macro distribution is. No, you don't. I know you might be thinking, just tell me how many calories I need to eat. You don't actually even need to know that, because if you can get your mind right, if you can get your headspace in a good spot, you'll be surprised at how much you just figure a lot of that stuff out on your own. But when you come to your weight loss journey with stinking thinking, you're a hack and an amateur. Those that win, those that have the heart of a champion, those that win in their games, they have a rock solid mindset. They know their mentality matters. And one of the most important parts of that mentality is the not quitting mindset. You have to adopt this mindset that no matter how many times I mess up, I'm going to get up one more time. I'm never going to give up on me. Part of the mindset also involves having a goal, having a why, carrying it with you, always reminding yourself of it each and every single day. Why do I want to be thin, healthy, and happy? Why do I want to have the body of my dreams? Why do I want to be in shape? You're always asking yourself that question every single day, and you're never giving up. But when you're looking to take days and weeks off of thinking about your dream, taking days and weeks off of thinking about your body and thinking about how to get the best results for your body, you're a hack and an amateur. And it's fine. I was a hack and an amateur. All of us start there. But at a certain point, you got to turn pro. At a certain point, it's time to say, I'm ready to get serious. I'm ready to really get this done. I'm ready to stop taking the excuses from myself. And you're going to level up your mindset. And you're going to unlock that greatness that's within you. And you're going to begin stepping towards your fear instead of running away from it. You're going to begin to realize that letting my life be run by guilt, by shame, by fear, is all that is done is resulted in me being unhappy. But when I begin to let my courage come out, where I can feel my fear and move forward in spite of the fact that I feel that fear, and I'll see my life change. The more you do that, the more encouraged you'll be to keep moving forward. And this is all mindset work. And a diet's not going to help you with this. You got to do this. Think about what you listen to. Are you listening to stuff that nourishes your mind? Think of the people you talk to. Are you running around with losers? If you're running around with losers, you're going to be a loser. Are you running around with a bunch of overweight people all the time, getting advice from them, talking to them about your problems with your body? You're going to end up like them. And I know some of y'all don't want to hear that, because guess what? It sucks. Some of you are going to lose some friends on this journey. I've lost friends on this journey. Every weight loss winner I know has lost somebody somehow. Some relationship has been altered because they had to reimagine how they interacted with that person. Sometimes it meant limiting the exposure with those individuals. Let's move to number 6, the 6th thing that weight loss winners do, and that is eating on a routine. You see, something that I've noticed amateurs and hacks do, they're still chasing all the novelty of eating because you're still using eating as your drug. So you're always trying to chase the next high to ramp it up more and more and more and more and more. But you'll realize that this is so much easier if you just find several meals that you love and just put them on lock and just keep eating them over and over again. When you get bored of it, you swap it out for something else. And it's not restriction because you love what you're eating, right? You're like, I found this thing, I like it. And you do it for a long time. And then you eventually get burned out on it and you move on to something else. And it's no big deal because you want to just shift your thinking to other places. And devoting all that extra energy to coming up with some new fancy meal all the time, ain't got time for that. And sometimes you're like, well, yeah, but my family needs all this stuff. Well, you know what? They can get over it, right? Like sometimes you got to remember, obesity is generational and it's not because of genetics, it's because of habits. You know, sometimes what's happened is you and your family and you and your friends have created this eating dynamic that is remarkably conducive for being overweight. Some of y'all, you're in an overweight family. Some of y'all, if you look in your home, your spouse is overweight and your kids are overweight, and it's your fault to some extent because you're helping to perpetuate it. And you're going to have to start changing some of it, and you're going to have to be willing to break from your tribe. And sometimes breaking from your tribe means you don't eat dinner the same way your family eats dinner. You can eat dinner with them, you just eat it differently than they do, and that's fine. That's fine. It's not your job to change them. It's your job to change you. And again, you're not cutting out food groups, so it's not like they don't get to have the foods they love. The only difference is you're regulating yourself on the volume because see point number 2 from up above. You are aware of the calories you're eating. You don't give yourself free-for-alls where you eat whatever you want. Whatever volume you want. You can still eat whatever foods you want. And let's move to number 7. Much like the mindset one, this one's huge. This one's tangential to it, but it's a very, 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 very specific mentality among the weight loss winners. Amateurs and hacks don't do this one. You see, actually, let me tell you what amateurs and hacks do. Weight loss amateurs and weight loss hacks, what they do when they make a mistake, they double down for a week. And they go, oh, I'm too sad. And they just go all in their feels and eat everything in sight. You're a weight loss hack and amateur. Look, it's fine. Look, when I'm calling you a weight loss a hack and an amateur, it's okay. It's not a negative thing. It's just a progression because, hey, at least you're trying. At least you're out there getting after it. If you're an amateur, like a AAA baseball player, you're trying to make it pro. You got to get out there and work until eventually it's time to turn pro. And what's going to happen is sometime, one time, you're going to make a mistake. Something's going to happen. Life's going to show up and you're going to binge and you're going to lose control. And you're going to wake up in the morning, looking yourself in the mirror going, why did I do that? And this is your moment to turn pro. That's your moment. You turn pro right then. And you go, I'm getting back on it today. Last night was last night. I'm not proud of what I did, but I'm not letting it carry into today because pros leave yesterday's play be yesterday, and today's a new day. And pros actually don't even make it about a day. Pros go, man, I really screwed the pooch there about 5 hours ago. I am not letting that carry. I'm listening to my hunger. And you know what? I know it's dinner time, but I ate so damn much at lunch, I am not that hungry. So I'm going to have a granola bar and call it good for dinner tonight. And everything balances out because you're a weight loss winner and a professional. But when you're a hack and a pro, you're like, I ate so much at lunch. I'm so sad. I'm just going to go ahead and eat everything for dinner too. And I'm going to have all my feelings because I can't be successful anyway. And you're just going to double down on all the stinking thinking. And you're going to convince yourself to quit. Because that's what weight loss hacks and amateurs do. When weight loss hacks and amateurs have a bad play, they sit there, ruminate on it, and all they want to do is talk about how bad it went. Pros don't do that. Pros move on. They move on. They just let it go. And they let it go so fast, it's hardly even worth calling it a failure or a mistake because you're like, meh, there's just a choice. You know, that's what I realized. When I just eat a whole bunch of food, I don't look at it anymore as good and bad. It was just my choice I made. And I'm going to listen to my hunger for the next few days, so it'll all even out. My body's keeping score, and it's going to let me know. Now, number 8. The 8th thing the weight loss winners and professionals do is they weigh in regularly. Now, I'm not saying it's got to be every day or every few days or every week, but they certainly aren't going months without weighing in. They're certainly not going 3-4 weeks without knowing what their weight is. Now, I understand, and I've been there. There's a time and a place when you need to take a little break from the scale and prove to yourself you will do the things you need to do even without the scale going down. And the way you're going to do that is to not get on the scale and keep doing the things that you know you need to do. That is true. You also, many of you, if you've been listening to me for a long time, you know that my policy is if you're going to get on the scale, you ask yourself 2 questions. Question number 1, am I proud of the work I've done since the last time I've been on the scale? If the answer is no, you don't fucking get on that scale. You don't get on that scale. If you ain't proud of the work you've been on, you don't get on that scale and pull it like a slot machine. You don't pull it like a gambling addict, hoping you get a rush like the scale went down going, I may not be proud, but I feel good because that scale went down. No, you don't do that. Because that's what a hack does. A hack lets the scale dictate their mood. An amateur to weight loss lets the scale dictate their mood. A professional decides their mood. And they get on the scale and go, all right, that's what it says. But then you also ask yourself question number 2. Is there anything the scale can say that would change my feelings about how proud I feel of what I've done? And if the answer is, yeah, the scale could change my mood, you don't get on the scale. An amateur gets on the scale. A hack gets on the scale and lets the scale dictate their thinking. A professional decides their thinking before they get on the scale. And they look at it and they assess what they're going to do because they're owning their life and they're making decisions. And that scale is nothing more than a data point. It's a piece of feedback amongst a sea of other feedback points. That's all it is. And they weigh in regularly. It's just like if a person says they're serious about getting their financial situation under control, then they're looking at their bank account regularly. They're looking at their income regularly. They're looking at their bills regularly. They're making sure all the money's going where it needs to go. They're regularly watching their spending. They got a budget. They are managing their money. If you're just not doing that, then you don't care. You don't care. And if you're working on your weight and you're not looking at a number on the scale, you ain't working on your weight. All right? Understand? It's fine. It's okay if you're not, right? There are times in my life where I am not looking at it now and when I was losing my weight. But I don't do it for long stretches. I never go longer than about a month. I am at least weighing in once a month. I am not going to go longer than a month without knowing what I weigh because I got to know if it's going the other direction. And you know what, though? If I'm not getting on the scale, I'm watching my measurements. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm looking at how clothes fit. I am not flying blind. Professionals monitor their body all the time, just like a financial professional monitors their money all the time. They don't take breaks from it. Because hacks and amateurs want breaks. Professionals don't because they live for this. All right. I'm a little blunt about all this, but the sickness has sort of removed my filter, which is why I'm leaning into this episode this week. All right. Number 9. We're on to the last 2 here. Number 9. Weight loss professionals. The weight loss winners. They prioritize eating satiating foods. Now, I know I mentioned earlier about awareness of the calories earlier, but when those that are professional, when they're making food choices, they intentionally are prioritizing, will this food keep me full? Will this food keep me full for the amount of calories that I'm getting it in? They're looking at something called volumetrics. They're monitoring the mass of the food relative to the caloric value of the food. They're making sure it's not too calorically dense. And they're making sure it's also going to satiate them relative to their hunger for where they're at. And there's a massive prioritization of that. And the 2 different foods that you're looking at are those that are high in fiber and those that are high in protein. Foods that are high in fiber and high in protein are going to have a higher satiation score. And also, those that are losing weight and they're weight loss winners, they're going to be looking at rice and potatoes because these are among the highest foods on the carbs on the satiation factor here. They are incredibly satiating. Now, satiation is different than fullness. Fullness is that feeling of my stomach is full of food, right? That goes away fairly quickly, and then you can eat more food as you have gastric emptying, where your body just lets the food out of the stomach into your intestines, and then you could put more in. That doesn't mean you need to eat more food. Just because there's not food in your stomach. You don't need food in your stomach all the time. Your stomach can actually be empty the majority of the time you're alive. Didn't know if you knew that. I didn't know that. I had to learn that. There's a difference between my stomach is empty and I am hungry. I had to learn to tell the difference between those 2 feelings on my journey. You're going to need to learn to tell the difference too if you're going to be a professional. Hacks and amateurs don't know the difference. They think empty stomach means I'm hungry and need to eat. But satiation is what comes from your guts. That comes from your intestines. That's when you eat foods and you're like, I don't want food. I'm not full. I don't want food. I don't want to eat. And you can trigger that feeling with foods that you eat. You know why so many people want GLP-1s? Is because it is a chemical that is triggering satiation. GLP-1s trigger satiation. GLP-1s are a natural hormone in the body, but they're sort of like firecrackers. They're like, poof, they go off and then they go away. The medications, they cause it to really sort of stick around and it has a lasting effect. Did you know you can have the same effect if you just eat high protein, high fiber? Did you know that? Like, you can still have your simple carbs, just also have high fiber and high protein, and you'll find you don't want the simple carbs. Just like the GLP-1s, the food noise goes down. A lot of times the reasons why so many of you have food noise is because you're eating foods that invite food noise. And so, again, amateurs don't change the foods they eat. So they keep eating the foods that create food noise and then, well, wait till we get to number 10, and then they complain about the food noise. But you're literally creating it. You're creating more food noise. Pros know I can control the food noise in my life by the foods that I eat to a certain extent, as well as through exercise. Exercise controls food noise. They know that too. Movement controls food noise. They know that too. Sleep controls food noise. They know that too. Hydration controls food noise. They know that too. Professionals control their food noise. Amateurs and hacks don't. Amateurs and hacks are ruled by their food noise, and they act like they're victims to it. And so then they go running for somebody to take it away from them. Doc, hack my stomach open. Doc, give me a medication. Make my food noise go away. How about you make your food noise go away? Why don't you do it? Try all that stuff first. And then if that stuff doesn't work after doing it diligently for 6 months to a year, then go to the doctor and say, doctor, something's wrong. I have done all these things. Here's the data to show you that I'm doing all the things, and the food noise is still here and I can't get it under control. Then it makes sense. Go get on a GLP-1. Go get weight loss surgery. I'd rather you did a GLP-1 than surgery. To be perfectly honest, I think weight loss surgery is barbaric and I don't think we should do it. I think it's terrible. I mean, the more and more I research about it, the more and more I'm learning about it, the more I think it is barbaric that we're doing this to people. I'm much more supportive of a GLP-1 than that, because at least you can stop taking a GLP-1. Whereas weight loss surgery, some of them, you're mutilating the insides of your body forever, and you still gain the weight back. And now you've mutilated your digestion system, and you have to live with this forever. That sucks. This is barbarism. All right, now let's move to number 10. Number 10. This is the big one. Weight loss hacks and professional. Or weight loss, the difference between a weight loss hack and an amateur and a weight loss winner and professional. A weight loss hack and amateur bitches and whines and complains all the time about weight loss. How hard it is, how they can't do this and that. I can't lose weight because of this, can't lose weight because of that. That's what amateurs do. I know what I should do, but I just can't get myself to do it. They just go around whining and complaining all the time, constantly talking about problems. Professionals are solution oriented. I need to identify the problem and then we move to the solution. I found a problem, move to the solution. What's the solution? Are we moving towards the solution? They realize that going around complaining does no good. And so like the food noise, a professional doesn't go around whining and complaining about the food noise in their life. They start going, how can I solve this? I've got food noise and I don't want it, and there's a solution out there and I'm going to go find it. Weight loss professionals got a can-do, will-do attitude, and they're going to go find it. They're going to go get it done. They're going to go figure it out. And I know the tone of this episode is a little bit different than some of the others. But I know that many of you out there, you're hearing me right now, and you're like, Chris, this is just what I needed. I needed to hear this straight up just like this, because this is the truth, y'all. I was there. This is how I talk to myself. I was a weight loss professional. I turned pro very early in my journey, and that's why when the pandemic showed up, it was nothing more than a speed bump. Then when there were so many other things that showed up on my journey, they were nothing more than speed bumps. When I had to change jobs, speed bump. When I had to move states, speed bump. When I went through a divorce, speed bump. When the pandemic showed up and it shut down everything that I had to go through, speed bump. When I had to move states again, speed bump. When I lost a relationship, speed bump. When I got into a new relationship, speed bump. All of these things before have derailed my journeys in the past, and all of them I've seen derail other people's journeys. Because amateurs and hacks, these things come and knock you out. But when you're pro, nothing stops you, because you've decided you're a champion. You're winning your Super Bowl. You're winning that title fight. You're coming home with the gold medal no matter what. You're not going to give up. No one's going to stop you, because getting the body of your dreams is your dream, and you're never going to give up, and no one's going to stand in your way. No one is standing in your way. And you are going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And you're going to be focused on getting it. And if anybody's going to come and get in your way and try to tell you you can't do it, you're going to politely tell them to pound sand and get out of your life. Because you got goals, you got dreams, and you are going to get them because you deserve it, because you're worth it. You're worth it right now. Right now. This is your life. This is your body. And I'm inviting you, turn pro. And you're going to know when you're pro. Because when life's going to show up and give you the perfect reason to quit, I'm talking that reason that everybody in your life would be like, this is the perfect reason to give up on working on your dreams. It would make total sense to stop working on weight loss right now. You're going to look at everybody around you and be like, yeah, all that still sucks, but I'm still working on my dream anyway. That's when I know you've turned pro. That's when I know you've gotten it. You see, I know you've turned pro when you're not talking about the scale all the time. You're talking about the changes you're making. You're talking about the mentalities you're adopting. You're talking about how your life is changing. That's when I know you're turning pro. But when I still say, how's your weight loss journey going? And all you're doing is telling me about the scale and you're telling me about the foods that you cut out, I know you ain't got it. You ain't got it. You only got a piece of it. You're still an amateur. You're still hacking away at this, still trying to have your moment when you turn pro. So I want you on the lookout for it. You listening right now that are amateurs and hacks, the ones right now that this episode slightly annoyed you or maybe really fucking pissed you off, and I don't even know if you're still here. But if you are, listen up. Here's how you know you're going to have your moment in the next 6 months to 12 months. I don't know when it is. In the next 6 to 12 months, something is going to happen that is going to be really hard. I mean really hard. Not like pretend hard. I mean actual hard. I mean actually going to make you want to quit. Actually going to make you want to stop. I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe you get bad news at work. Maybe something bad happens to a family member. Maybe something bad happens to you. I don't know. And it's going to be the perfect reason. And you might even have people inviting you to quit. You might have some old baggage might come up. You might have some emotional stuff you're working through. You're going to have to be there in that moment when you actually, genuinely, truly want to quit. You want to be done. You want to be like, fuck this. I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I just want all this to stop. I'm done. You're going to be in that moment. And you're going to look at yourself and you're going to be like, you're going to dig in deep. You're going to find something a little bit more in you that you didn't know you had. And you're going to be like, I'm not quitting today. Not today. Not today. Maybe tomorrow I'll quit, but I'm not quitting today. And you just keep going. And then you know, right there, you turned pro. You became a pro. And you're going to be a weight loss winner. Now, understand, you can lose the professional mentality at any time. You got to keep it going. Winners know. This mentality isn't locked in once. You relock it in. You relock it in again and again and again and again. And when life shows up and tests you, you're like, not today, life. Not today. I'm still getting this. So to you, my champions, don't you dare stop. The reason why I call you champions, the reason why I call my guild the Guild of Champions is because champions are winners. You're not a champion until you've won. You're not a champion until you've lost the weight. When you've lost the weight, you're the champion. But let's go ahead and pretend you're the champion now. Let's act as if you're the champion. Let's start adopting the champion's heart and spirit now by being courageous. You can be a courageous warrior today, fighting for your dreams, going every single down. You got to wake up every day and say, I'm going to be a champion. Every day I'm going to get this. I'm not going to stop. Whatever it takes, I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to get my dream, which is losing the weight and keeping it off forever. Don't you quit. Don't you give up. I've been doing this for 5 years and I ain't stopping. I got plenty of fight left in me. I'm going to be here for 5 more years doing this. And I want you to be there with me, having lost the weight and have kept it off. I'm watching you out there. I'm watching you. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. And I'll see you next week on the Chris Terrell Podcast.